Okay, guys, today's topic is something aging, and it's a bigger and bigger phenomenon in our country because the baby boomers, your grandparents, are increasingly getting across that 65-year-old threshold. And it's a great story in many ways. And that's what I really want to highlight at the start of this whole discussion of how do we handle the economics and the healthcare issues of aging. It's a overall it's a great news story that we live longer. And as you remember from the beginning of the class, for so long life expectancy was much shorter. It was, average life expectancy was in the 40s. That was pulled down by so many children and women dying in pregnancy, so that if you could get through all of those, if you could get past the age of 5 and get past childbirth, you sort of lived into your 60s, maybe early 70s. But now the average is 80. Now, COVID-19, it's not clear yet how that's going to impact that number. But overall, we've gained 25 to 30 years of extra life expectancy in the last century, and that's a great thing. And what my mentor at the University of Virginia, when I was getting my PhD, Henry Abraham, just passed away. I'm trying to think, just about 3 months ago, and he was 98 years old. Um, this is awesome and extraordinary. And I know many of you all listening to this, your lives are enriched because of your grandparents, and some of you even know your great grandparents. So overall, this main topic is good. The downside, the thing we have to come to grips with, is we're not really, as a society, ready for we're not ready for this many old people and the healthcare needs that they're going to have, right? So which group are we most concerned about? It's these baby boomers. 77 million of them born between 1946 and 1964. And they have aged up into retirement. And who are the boomers? The older boomers are these people. The younger boomers are people like Michelle Obama and Jeff Bezos. But together, from one end to the other, 77 million of them. And back on January 1, 2011, the boomers started retiring every single day. So January 1, 2011, the babies were the people who were born January 1, 1946. Those kids started turning 65, and every 8 seconds, another boomer reaches retirement age. 10,000 people a day, about 4 million per year, and it's inexorable. It's relentless, right? When it's all said and done in 10 years, the number of people above the age of the Social Security and Medicare eligibility line will go from 18 to 36 million, double. 75 to 84-year-olds will double from 12 to 24 million. And then the old, those over the age of 85 are going to quadruple from 4 million back in 2000 to 16 million over the age of 85-year-olds, all collecting Social Security and Medicare, and all are going to, once you hit 85, you're going to need more help with most of your living. And the thing that keeps us from becoming the oldest proportional country in terms of age is the fact that we have immigration. Greece, Italy, and Japan, they don't have near as much immigration or natural births. So the ratio of 65-year-olds to working adults is going to more than double by the time the boomers are all solidly in place. And, that's the boomers. Then Generation X is my generation. Then millennials, who are having the toughest go of it, between 9/11, the economic collapse, 2008-9, and now COVID. And then you all in Gen Z, you guys are going to have to band together, because after that, there's a big drop off. And you can't have the boomers take everything out of society. And you guys want to see if I will send you guys the video to this. They built these new retirement centers around preschools. And it's a win-win, because the older adults have some things to do. They keep them engaged. They're around young kids, and young kids get to have some more people hanging out with them. Now, just read this when you get a chance. The average 65-year-old can expect to live another 19 years. almost 4 years longer than was the case 50 years ago in 1970. By comparison, from the 19th century all the way up to 1970, 65-year-olds gained just 3 years of life expectancy. So in a very short amount of time, we've added a lot of extra years to our living. And this is called the rectangularization of our population. So for all of human history, if you looked at a graph of age of a population, lots of kids, lots of teenagers, some young adults, and then it thinned out. Very few old people. Now in the modern era, we all look like this rectangle with a big boot of older people. And again, it's a great news story. People are dying less and living longer, but we have to find a way to manage all of this. The United States used to be a triangle. Now it's turned into quite the rectangle. It's rectangularization of our demographics. And I think I've shown you this before. Women overall just live longer than men. At every level of income, women just live longer. And those who are wealthier live longer than those who are poor. All the data suggests that. And what that's leading to is these growing dilemmas of people who have young kids of their own or teenagers of their own, and they're trying to manage their lives. And then they're also managing the decline of their parents. And it's called the sandwich generation of middle-aged people frazzled on both ends, trying to do the best they can for their kids and for their parents. And this is the sandwich generation is becoming a big thing. And women are having children late. So part of the sandwich thing is that women are having children later in life. So as their parents are aging, they're just sort of getting their families going, and their kids are young, right? And you guys can click on this. This is just really funny, but it's a more humorous side of. It's fun to be old because you can just sort of stop having to put up all this fakeness, and you can be yourself. You can be fun. That's the fun side. The downside is, and you're seeing this more and more, and I think COVID is going to exacerbate it, is that people are outliving their savings. Right? 20% of senior citizens have no other income except for Social Security. 20% completely rely on that $1,000, $2,000 a month Social Security check. For 33% of senior citizens, Social Security accounts for at least 90%. So put those two together for all intents and purposes. 1/3 of the US population relies completely on Social Security check. They have nothing else. And so, and even the other 50% of the country, it still relies on Social Security probably more than it should be. And the number of homeowners over the age of 65 with a mortgage, that's tricky because, over the age of 65, this should be going the other way. You don't want a mortgage at that point. You want to have it paid off. And, even accomplished people, this is a famous journalist. You can find yourself as you get older with less money than you thought you're going to have, and less money than you need. And that's why median housing debt for those with housing debt over the age of 65, the median is going up and up and up. There's just more and more debt. This is a fun one. Boomer parents are moving back in with their millennial kids. That's their retirement plan. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know if you and your older friends are ready for this. And this is just a growing trend of not having enough money in retirement to be fully retired. At the same time, once the boomers started retiring in January 1, 2011, and they stopped paying in as much because they started retiring, all of these surpluses we had in Social Security and in the disability fund and in Medicare, these have all been going down since then because the boomers but they didn't overpay, but there were just so many more boomers working and there were retirees that these surpluses built up, which is great. You need surpluses. The surpluses are for future needs, and those needs are the baby boomers, and they are drawing down on these surpluses. And part of that is the age of eligibility is hardly ever budged. 65 is the golden magical age, even though life expectancy has been going up. Back in 1965, life expectancy was 70. Now it's 80. But the eligibility age is still the same, and that's tricky. And about 2 years ago was one of the first times that the costs for the program exceeded the revenue. So that's when they started dipping into the reserves. And that's going to continue to be a problem. Here's the reality in life is that you need people who are working. The people ages 20 to 70 are the ones who pay all these taxes, okay? You don't stop paying taxes when you retire, but this is the bulk of the age for paying income taxes, payroll taxes, sales taxes. This is the pain. This the getting, the benefits. There's some K through 12 when you're young, and then you don't really get a lot of benefits. No one really does a lot of investing in you or spending on you from your working years. And then when you retire, you get Medicare, Social Security, you might get Medicaid. You just get extra stuff. Well, you need to have X number of these people to pay for every one of these people. And back in 2011, we had 3 of these people paying for every one of these people up here. But by 2031, there's only going to be 2 of us down here paying for these. And that's when the taxes are going to go higher, or you're going to have to cut benefits, or you have to raise the eligibility age. And you look at what proportion of our government spending goes to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. It's half our budget. Half of the government's budget goes to supporting senior citizens. And so that's when people are thinking, we're going to have a political conflict in the future. It's not going to be liberals versus conservatives. It's going to be old versus young, right? Because the old have more of the assets, even though some of them are struggling financially relative to younger people. They're doing better, and they're much less diverse. I mean, the boomer generation is overwhelmingly white. The silent generation that came before them was 80% plus white. Gen X, my generation, is getting a little bit more diverse, not tremendously, but somewhat. Millennials getting close to 50% white, and then variety of other groups making up the other 50%. And then Gen Z will be down below. We're getting to be a much more diverse country, but these groups up here, these are the ones that run the country. You look at our political leaders and our business leaders, they're not millennials. They're not really even Gen X. They're kind of Gen X, but not really. They're boomers and silent generation. So you have a mismatch. And that's, as the country gets more diverse, the people that run it are not getting more diverse. And this is take this with a grain of salt. I don't know how serious the author really meant this. It's more maybe tongue in cheek, but maybe if you actually read it, it's really critical of the boomers, because the boomers had, the boomers went to college when it was like $800 or $500 a semester, and you could work your way through college if you went to college. You didn't have to go to college. You could get a middle class life working at the factories. But if you went to college, it wasn't that expensive. There wasn't a lot of college debt. Homes were affordable. And then all of a sudden they get into power, right? Reagan is like their first president they helped elect into office. And all of a sudden you get this hyper individualism and tax cuts, and no more, big support of college and keeping costs down. And this is, this whole, and the boomers haven't handled climate change. They haven't handled the needs for our infrastructure. They haven't solved college affordability or housing. They've just been taking and taking and taking. That's the criticism of this book, is that in the end, the boomers are just too selfish, and it's harming the country. You just look at the difference between Generation X, boomers, and millennials, and you can just see there's just a generational divide. This is, it's just a big difference in what's important to each generation. Now, this is a quick story I want to tell you. Living too long can take a huge toll. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, first woman Supreme Court justice appointed by President Reagan, a trailblazer and a leader, is a cautionary tale about what happens when you live too long. Not so much her, but her husband, John. They were married a very long time. He developed dementia, and then dementia got worse, so she had to retire from the court, take him home to Arizona to take care of him around the clock. And then when that wasn't enough, she put him in a nursing home. If you click on this, you'll see the story. This happens more and more in nursing homes that have a lot of patients with dementia. She went to go visit him one day, and she opens the door, and he has his arm around another woman who he's quote unquote sort of friendly with and dating, and he doesn't remember that he's married. He's not cheating in any real sense. He doesn't remember he's married to her. That's living too long. So that's the topic we're going to deal with tomorrow. Is this is the article you guys read, Why I Hope to Die at 75. By the way, by far one of the most controversial articles I assign every year. So provocative, but I keep it on there because it gets so many conversations going. But he's an oncologist who's treated a lot of people and seen them live too long, and the quality of life goes down so much that his argument is this is not worth it. Living this long isn't worth it. So see what you think, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.
You have stopped screen share.
Bye, guys.